Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. I've got the three amigos with us, and we're going to talk about something that is an anchor, a core of my course. And I'm not sure these two gentlemen will agree with it. And that is the only metric that matters to me when looking and comparing deals, not unit count, not cap rate, not even cash flow, whatever else. There's only one metric that matters. And of course, I call it yield. Some people call it cash on cash. Some people call it return on capital. But basically, I want to know how much money I put out and how much money I get back. And I will simply buy the highest yield. So Matt, when I say crazy things like that, what do you think?
What a dumb idea.
I know, it's so stupid. It is the number of units. The more units are always better. Bigger is better.
It's not. No, and that's the thing is it boils, looking at yield, we call it return on cash or return on capital. So when you're looking at that one number, that's really the only thing that matters, which is I only have so much money in the bank. Mm-hmm. It's not infinite, not yet. So I only have so much. And because I only have so much, I have to make sure that every time I let one of my kids go, mm-hmm. that I have them bringing some of their friends back, more of their friends than I'm letting go out. And so that's the biggest key for me. That's the biggest metric that I watch on every single deal. It doesn't make a difference if it's a 1-unit single family home up against a 10-unit property.
Yeah.
I want the return on my capital to be the best. Because if I had to choose, right? If I have to choose, I will always choose the return on capital. Ideally, if they're both great deals, I try and do both of them. But largely, most people are having to make the choice between one or the other. And that means it has to be that return on capital. It's got to be that return on capital. Unless, the only caveat is, unless there's some value, like an ADU or something like that, where you can't calculate that day one. If there's some value like that, I have a few properties, probably 4 or 5, that there is massive, massive value in those properties when I go and get the ADU approved. Now, that's something I might consider at the front on the return on capital, but it's not something I'm making this massive sacrifice for because it's years out.
Yeah, very cool. What do you think about Dan? You're on Bigger Pockets all the time, talking about all this sophisticated algebra and calculus and IRRs and all this nonsense. There's got to be more metrics than just this simple yield calculation.
Well, I definitely don't agree with the most recent videos that came out on Bigger Pockets where they said don't use yield.
Yeah, God.
But I will tell you, I agree when it comes to math. Math is step 1. It's the most important. But then I start to diverge from agreeing with you.
Okay, great.
So you have said many times you would buy a single family, a small multifamily or multifamily based on which one had the best yield. Every
time.
So I'm still under 10 mortgages in my own name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking at 5 units or more, even if it had twice the yield. It still wouldn't attract me to the lending that goes with multifamily. So as a newer investor, I'm still not there.
Okay.
And then I would, after yield, there is criteria like, is it in a war zone?
Oh, of course.
Right?
There's
Can I say right? So it's just step 1, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also looking at, and so it becomes more nuanced than that. Outside of a war zone, is it the type of property that's going to help limit tenant turnover? Are there washer dryer hookups in the units? I don't want to own one ever that doesn't. So if I did, I would calculate the cost of adding it into my cost to acquire, right?
Absolutely.
So the yield,
that's called make ready cost, in case anybody,
right, which goes into the yield calculation. Exactly. So that means that if there's a type of property where adding those isn't an option, I'm not looking at that property, even if it had a good yield. I don't want the turnover.
Okay.
So yes, yield, internal rate of return is like net worth.
Yeah.
It's a great mental exercise to play with yourself, but it means nothing.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I get asked all the time. So again, I use yield calculations to make my investing decisions. I'm buying A and I'm not buying B. A lot of people come back and go, how do you use yield for assets you already own? I'm like, I already own them. The yield doesn't matter at that point. I own them. I've got to deal with them. If I bought a deal and turnover is higher than I thought, I just did this. I sold a triplex last year. I carried that son of a gun for 10 years. It never performed. It still cash flowed. I was expecting 20 and got like 8 or 6. I sold it. It doesn't matter, right? I make investment decisions and then I am the owner. And then if it's a problem, I sell it. If they get unaffordable, I 1031. right? Meaning they become too pricey. Don't get confused. Yield or return on capital or cash on cash, it's my investment decisions. Everything after the point of investments is a mental exercise. And I don't have time for it. I used to calculate our IRRs and it doesn't matter. What's the hassle factor, right? I sold a triplex because the hassle factor was the highest I had. And I think I've sold 3 of them over the last 15 years. That property is a problem. At some point, you almost feel like you're not lucky. Like it was a 3-unit building. One year I had 9 turnovers. I promise you that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Some of them,
they got turnovers than Dion's ever had in 10 years.
2 total. 2.
9.
People were allergic to living there.
I mean, there was I remember one time somebody moved in and then their boyfriend proposed. And then, it was like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, it's just, but again, so, I mean, sometimes you just feel snake bit. I tried. We sold it. It's okay. Moved on. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I removed, for me, it is return on capital, hassle factor. And they're just yield. And I don't know why some people want to get all fancy with math and say, this is the most important. You freaking own the thing already. Does it make you feel good to stack? Okay, great. I want to go find the next one. I don't want to do the math to do all of that. So, that's why I teach yield. That's why I talk yield. That's why you'll see it in our course, our group. And that's why I talk about average, right? And to Dion's point, if you're going to only buy things with what need washer and dryers and you have something that doesn't have it, well, you need to go get a bid and add that to make ready, because you're going to it's going to come out of your account to get those washers and dryers. And back to war zones, I have a veto factor. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's 100% yield. I don't care if it's an infinite yield. If it's in a war zone, meaning somebody's got to wear a bulletproof vest to go get it, it just doesn't matter, right? There's always things that don't fit my buy box, right? That's why a buy box is there. And if it's outside my buy box, it doesn't get considered. So I think that's all wonderful information. But for me, for most new investors, all that other fancy stuff that Bigger Pockets is getting after, because all their people are big now and they make more money selling books than anything else, it doesn't matter. Go figure out how hard your money is working. That's enough. Buy the best yield. Make sure it's in your buy box. Understand make ready. That's what I'm talking about. We'll go back the other way. So Dion, what do you think of that?
The really important thing with understanding yield is it's the quickest way to know if you should make an offer or not. So you need to know not only how the calculation works, but the area that you're in, your footprint that you're investing in. What are the area average rents? Where are the areas that you are going to avoid just because of your veto? You can't safely go to that location.
Yep.
So when you hear someone say something like, well, it depends on if you're investing for cash flow or appreciation. That literally means, are you investing or gambling?
Yeah,
So
that's
two different categories.
That makes my head blow up when I see that. Yeah. And Matt, what do you think?
I had somebody bring me a deal and they said, Matt, this return on capital is huge. I said, okay.
Yeah.
He goes, just went on the market last couple of weeks. I go, it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, let me tell you what the address is. I give him the address. He goes, how'd you know? I said, the back corner of that house is 7 feet from railroad tracks.
Yeah.
7 feet. That's not an exaggeration. It is legitimately 7 feet from railroad tracks. The house was built 120 years ago. It's 7 feet from railroad tracks. So I said, listen, I don't care what the return is there. There is no tenant that will last living on a set of train tracks. No one. Doesn't matter what I do to it. They're going to feel it. They're going to hear it. Never, ever, ever. Let me make sure you understand. Ever, ever, never, ever, ever. And so to your point, you do absolutely have to look at what the yield is. But once you get past yield, then you have to start asking the additional questions like Dion was talking about, which is, okay, why potentially might this yield be off the charts crazy? Because there's 2 streets in my cities there's 2 streets in one city that I will not buy on. And the yields always look good. And ironically, I know where 60% of our police are going to be that night too.
Yeah, exactly.
So hard pass.
Yep. Buy box. You wouldn't include those streets. Understand what's going on, folks. This is about getting a deal. This is not about proving how good your math skills are.
Mhm.
Right. Just go ahead, figure out how hard your kids are working. Make sure the kids bring home friends, as Matt was saying in the beginning. Dion, how can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
And Matt, you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Lumberjack Landlord on Instagram.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Ciao.